Hey guys, Comic Boom here to talk about Batman issues 41, 42, and 43. Man, this is the art here by Mikel Janin. Wow, just amazing. This is a 3-issue Batman story. The latest issue, issue 43. Again, great cover on this one as well. Art's fantastic. This is a Poison Ivy story. For those of you who may not remember, in the Tom King, when he wrote The War of Jokes and Riddles, and there was a particular scene where Poison Ivy ended up being recruited by the Riddler, and she fought on the Riddler side of the War of Jokes and Riddles between the Riddler and the Joker. And there was a scene where Poison Ivy, we had thought as readers, had killed a bunch of henchmen while walking through a park with the Riddler. And what this 3-issue arc does essentially is it deals with the fallout from that. In particular, Ivy's psychological way of coping with the fact that she murdered, five or six henchmen. Now, what's interesting here is the way Tom King lays this all out. Tom King's got a very particular sense of the way he does his own dialogue here, and I can't say that I can't say that I'm a big fan of his dialogue all the time. It's very hit and miss with me, but in this particular story, the art is so beautiful. It is, my God. I mean, when you look at look at the opening page that starts off in issue 41. I mean, my God, just Ivy is so beautiful, and artist Mikel Janin does such a fantastic job, making you appreciate just how beautiful Ivy is, because Ivy represents all the green on Earth. She loves plants, and of course, Batman, Bruce, and Selina are basically sleeping in their bed, and they basically are woken up by a dream, which is not really a dream, it's really happening. Ivy has basically taken over the planet because she has basically everyone on the planet eats plants. We all eat some sort of plant-based food, and of course because she's Poison Ivy, she's a very brilliant chemist, and she figures out a way to basically take over the minds and have all 7.6 billion people on the earth, all their thoughts and minds are in Ivy's head. So she basically controls the world, except for Batman and Selina, because Batman and Bruce manages to inject himself and Selina with the antidote that only Batman has. And so this 3-issue arc is basically Ivy coming to terms, trying to psychologically cope with the ongoing post-traumatic stress of the fact that has remained with her for, it had to have been well over a decade, while she comes to terms with the fact that she killed a number of henchmen. Now, what's interesting about this is it wraps up fairly neatly. I mean, I won't spoil it. I just want to get right to the point here. It stars the Justice League, which is in issue 42, and they're also in issue 43. And the way it wraps up with some revelations which we already knew about Harley and Ivy, and Batman uses Harley as a way to try to reach Ivy, and ultimately reveal to Poison Ivy that in fact it was the Riddler just playing games, that she had not in fact killed those henchmen. All she did was that she used vines to hold them upside down. The Riddler went back and killed him. Ivy is not a killer after all, and that realization sort of snaps Ivy back to reality and release her hold on all the people on the planet. What's interesting about this is, I think, what DC, in a broader context, what it says about what DC wants to do with Ivy. In previous incarnations prior to Rebirth, I always assumed that Poison Ivy has killed lots of people. At least in all the stories I'm aware of, Poison Ivy kills at least 1 or 2 people. They appear to be, I think they're making Ivy into more of a hero, Poison Ivy into more of an anti-hero, more akin, I think, to like Harley Quinn. Now, Harley kills, but I think they're trying to make Ivy into a little bit more heroic, because clearly in the Rebirth version of Ivy, DC is making it very clear here, Tom King makes it very clear here, that Poison Ivy has never in her entire life killed anybody. And that's rather extraordinary, because I remember, at least even in Rebirth, Poison Ivy had a miniseries that I recall reading where I'm quite certain that she killed a guy who was sexually harassing her in an office, if I recall correctly. So it seems a little odd. So I think there's a little bit of reworking or rebirthing or rebooting Poison Ivy's past to try to make her a little bit more of a good person, more of a hero as opposed to a villain, because they really try to build. Tom King really tries to build up the sympathy toward Poison Ivy in this issue, and I think that's part of her. Clearly, that's part of her healing process. So we as comic book readers, if you're a fan of Batman and his rogues gallery, be prepared in the future when you see Poison Ivy, because I think she's going to be going the way of the good guy from now on, and I think that's quite clear. In terms of the story itself, I thought it was a little bit hard to believe that, because the War of Jokes and Riddles took place in the first years of Batman, and this takes place essentially 10 years later. So it's hard to believe that Poison Ivy's been struggling with this for over 10 years and just now has come to terms with it on the eve of Batman and Catwoman's wedding. The timing seems a little bit off to me. I would have thought that Poison Ivy would have dealt with that sooner, but now in this day and age, with all that we know about post-traumatic stress or whatever, I suppose I can believe that it took that long for Poison Ivy to finally come to terms with it, but it seemed a little bit off to me. But hey, I'm not a psychologist. Maybe somebody who is can explain that to me. The other thing, the idea that Poison Ivy could take over the entire planet, and that there's 7.6 billion people that she's controlling in her head, I find that very hard to believe. Poison Ivy doesn't have that type of superpower, and even if she was capable of controlling the thoughts of 7.6 billion people, she doesn't have the mental capacity to be able to control all their actions. So I find, even from a superhuman comic book suspension of disbelief perspective, I find that hard to believe, but so be it. Those are nitpicks. Overall, it's a good series, guys. It's great art. Pick it up, and till next time, Comic Boom out.